It's Christmas in Miss Lingle's fourth grade class, which means that we're all hard at work on our holiday poems. We're coming up with rhymes the world has never heard of before, like ice and nice, or cheer and year. Very inventive in the fourth grade. And we got Nat King Cole blasting out of a CD player. We've got red and green all along the walls. And every day there seems to be a new treat. And it's truly the most wonderful time of the year. But little did I know that it was going to be the most dreadful day of the year for me. You see, most kids were crafting their holiday poems with their friends, not me. I was sat at the table with the problem children. Now, for the record, and little Emma would want you to know this, she was not a problem child. She was the exact opposite of a problem child. I was precocious, intelligent, mild-mannered, and my entire life teachers had sat me next to all of these troublemakers in hopes that my goodness would somehow rub off on them. And what better time of year to hang out with these lowlifes than Christmas? Because Christmas is the time where people are learning lessons and hearts are softening. So I figured I'd give it my best go. "What are you guys gonna ask for Christmas?" said Connor, a kid who was known for using bad words when he got mad, which was, every day. "I'm gonna ask for a sick new pair of football gloves so I can match Calvin Johnson," said Vito. Vito was a really kind kid, but he could never remember to turn his homework in on time. "I think I'm gonna ask for a camera so I can be just like iCarly, and I'll probably ask my parents for a shirt or whatever," I said. A scoff emerges from the other side of the table. "Why? They're the same person." I look up and I make eye contact with the problemest of the problem children, Sandro. You see, Sandro was in my class for 3 years, and he made every single one of them miserable. He used words worse than Connor. He forgot his homework way more than Vito. And he was elevated from petty annoyance to petty criminal earlier that year when he stole my cousin's bike in the fourth grade. That's insane. But I wasn't gonna let this kid bait me into being on the naughty list, so I decided to take the high road. "No, they're not the same. But anyway, what are you gonna ask for, Sandro?" "I can't believe that you believe in Santa Claus. Anyone who believes in Santa in the fourth grade is stupid." See, the potty mouth on this kid to use a word like that. "I can't believe that you think that there's some guy who flies around and goes down people's chimneys." "No, I do not think that. We don't have a chimney. Santa uses the front door." Obviously Sandro wasn't used to using his critical thinking skills like I was if he was gonna get a little thing like a chimney in the way of believing in Santa Claus. I mean, it's fine. He's a kid with a report card full of D's. Meanwhile, I got pulled out for advanced math. Thank you very much. So I figured he just needed a little more logic, and that would get him on the train. So I pulled something out. I said, "Well, they're definitely not the same person because last year, Santa got me an iPod Shuffle, and my dad's way too cheap to ever buy me one of those." As an aside, my dad still holds that comment as a point of pride to this day. And then he says, "No, your parents are just lying to you." Okay. So now I was getting mad, right? 9-year-old Emma didn't know what the word gaslighting was, but in this moment, she knew what it felt like. This kid was just sitting there spewing lies and ruining everything. And I thought, fine, if we're gonna ruin things, Sandro, let's ruin things. And I say, "No, your parents are just lying to you. You're just such a bad kid that you probably get coal every year, and they don't want you to feel bad about yourself, so they lie and tell you that nobody else gets presents, so." I realize that this has some hollow and twisted logic, but cut Emma some slack. The kid stole a bike. And I go, "Besides, who eats the cookies?" "Your parents probably do." "Oh, and the reindeer food we put on the driveway, I suppose they eat that too?" They probably just sweep it off into the grass." So I could sense that I was losing the argument here. My cheap dad and coal comments were starting to lose their salt. So I did what any precocious child does when they think they're losing an argument. I brought in an adult. "Mrs. Lingle, is Santa Claus real? Because Sandro's telling me that he's not." Without skipping a beat, she says, "My parents are in their 80s and they've never told me one way or the other." So I turn around, I cross my arms, I got a big smug smile on my face because I think I just won the argument. And now I can get back to crafting my poem, you know? Maybe I would go bold and rhyme tree with glee. But my poetry is interrupted by a whispered thought from Sandro where he says, "That wasn't really an answer though." And that thought lingers in my brain for the rest of the day through math, reading, gym class, free time, all of it. And by the time that my mom picks me up and I'm sat across from her eating my snack she prepared, I am a young woman on a mission. So I put my hands together and I gather all the strength that a little girl can gather. And I say, "Mom, I need you to be 100% honest with me, okay? Completely honest." "Sure, of course. What is it, sweetie?" "Is Santa Claus real?" The question lingers in the air like mistletoe, you know, unavoidable, omnipresent, and its presence itself is just riddled with consequence. And so my mom looks at the plate of apples and peanut butter that she's prepared for me. She looks back up at me and she says, "No." Tears instantly, because somehow in my small childhood brain, I knew that childhood was over. You know, Christmas would no longer be palpable with possibilities. And everything's recolored, you know? All the cool gifts, they're not from some magic dude. They're from my parents. The American Girl dolls, the PlayStation 2, the aforementioned iPod Shuffle. And, you know, of course, you know, we put out peanut butter blossoms every year because that's my dad's favorite cookie and he's the one who's gonna eat it. And so, yeah, somehow I was like, childhood is over, the tooth fairy's gone too, all in that moment. And so the tears just keep rolling. But maybe I didn't cry for any of those reasons. Maybe I cried because I knew that the next day at school, I'd have to go and look that little jerk in the eyes and know that he was right. But you know, at least something about Christmas is still true. That even the hardest of hearts, like my own, can be softened, and that lessons can always come from unexpected places.